The following morning, the sun rose with a golden glow, lighting up the small town in a soft, warm embrace. But for Sarah and Daniel, the day was filled with a sense of quiet tension. They had barely slept the night before. Sarah had been restless, and though Daniel had tried to comfort her, they both knew that today would bring answers they were both afraid to hear. After a short breakfast, Daniel drove them to the doctor's office. He tried to keep things light, chatting about small things, cracking jokes in an effort to ease Sarah's anxiety. But even his best attempts couldn't lift the heavy silence between them. Sarah kept her eyes on the road ahead, her thoughts far away. She hadn't wanted to go to the doctor, not because she wasn't concerned, but because she was scared of what they might find. She had never been one to lean on others for help, and now she had no choice but to face something much bigger than she ever imagined. They arrived at the small clinic on the corner of their street. It was a quiet place, nothing too fancy, but it felt like home. The nurse at the front desk smiled at them warmly, recognizing Sarah and Daniel from past visits. She led them down a narrow hallway into an examination room. Sarah sat on the bed, her hands resting in her lap, while Daniel stayed by her side, his presence a steady reassurance. The doctor, Dr. Martin, entered with a smile. He was an older man with gray hair and glasses, always kind and gentle. He had known Sarah for years, watching her grow from a young girl into the confident woman she had become. Seeing her like this, sitting on the exam table, her eyes filled with worry, troubled him. "Good morning, Sarah," Dr. Martin said, his voice warm. "How are you feeling today?" Sarah gave him a half smile, trying her best to be brave. "I'm all right, just here for some answers." Dr. Martin nodded, taking a seat across from her. "I understand. Let's see what's going on then." He began by asking a series of questions, as doctors often do. How long had she been feeling this pain? Where exactly it hurt? Whether it was constant or came and went? Sarah explained everything as best as she could, describing the dull ache in her side that had slowly become more pronounced. Dr. Martin listened carefully, nodding along, his expression serious. He wasn't just hearing her words. He was trying to piece together the puzzle of her symptoms. When he was finished asking questions, he stood and gently examined her, pressing on different areas of her abdomen. Sarah winced a few times, but she didn't say anything. She had grown used to pushing through discomfort, pretending it wasn't as bad as it really was. But Dr. Martin was sharp. He could tell something wasn't right. After the exam, Dr. Martin sat back down and took a deep breath. "Sarah, I'm going to need to run some tests," he said, his tone calm but firm. "I don't want to alarm you, but based on what you've told me and what I've seen during the exam, it's important we get a clear picture of what's going on." Sarah's stomach churned. She didn't need to hear those words to know that something was wrong. She could feel it deep down in her bones. She nodded, trying to keep the panic from rising in her chest. "Okay, I trust you," she said, though her voice wavered slightly. Dr. Martin stood up and gestured for the nurse to come in. The nurse, a young woman with a bright smile, stepped forward with a clipboard. "We'll take care of the tests right away," she said reassuringly. "It won't take long." As the nurse led Sarah away for the tests, Daniel remained seated, his mind racing. He tried to focus on something, anything, to distract himself, but his thoughts kept returning to Sarah. He hated seeing her like this, so vulnerable, and yet, he knew that he had to be strong for both of them. He couldn't let her feel alone in this. It felt like hours before the nurse returned and led Sarah back to the exam room. Sarah's face was pale and she looked exhausted, but she tried to smile for Daniel. It was a weak smile, though, one that didn't reach her eyes. Daniel stood up quickly, walking over to her and placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Sarah shrugged, her eyes downcast. "They did the tests. Dr. Martin said we'll have the results soon." Daniel nodded, trying to give her a reassuring smile. "Everything will be fine," he said, though his own heart was heavy with worry. The next few moments passed in a blur. Dr. Martin returned with the nurse in tow, holding a folder with Sarah's test results. Sarah's heart raced as he sat down across from her. He opened the folder, scanned the pages, and then looked up at her, his expression serious but not unkind. "Sarah," Dr. Martin began, his voice steady, "I'm afraid the results aren't what we were hoping for." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She didn't want to hear what he had to say. She didn't want to face the reality that had been slowly creeping into her thoughts, but deep down she had known this moment was coming. Dr. Martin continued. The tests show that you have a condition called ovarian cancer. It's in the early stages, but it's aggressive. We need to begin treatment as soon as possible. The words hit Sarah like a wave crashing against the shore. She felt dizzy as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Cancer. The word echoed in her mind, loud and terrifying. She had heard about it, read about it, but never imagined it would happen to her. For a moment, everything seemed to blur. She could feel Daniel's hand tighten around hers, but it seemed distant, as if she were floating outside of her own body. Are you sure? She asked quietly, her voice barely a whisper. She had to hear it again, had to make sense of it, even though she knew it was true. Dr. Martin nodded solemnly. Yes, Sarah. We'll start treatment right away. There's a lot we can do, but it's important that we act quickly. Daniel, who had been silent up until this point, spoke up, his voice firm. We'll do whatever it takes, Sarah. You're not in this alone. Sarah looked at him, her eyes welling up with tears. She had always been the strong one, the one who took care of everyone else. But now in this moment she felt so small, so fragile. I'm scared, Daniel, she admitted, her voice breaking. I don't know if I can do this. Daniel squeezed her hand, his voice filled with love and determination. You don't have to do it alone. I'm with you every step of the way, Sarah. We'll fight this together. Dr. Martin gave them both a reassuring smile. That's the right attitude. With the right treatment and support, you can get through this, and we'll be here to help you every step of the way. Sarah nodded, wiping away her tears. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. With Daniel by her side, she wasn't going to face it alone. The next few weeks felt like a blur for Sarah and Daniel. The days became routine. Doctor's visits, treatment plans, and endless hours spent in waiting rooms. Sarah began chemotherapy, and though she was brave, the toll it took on her was undeniable. Her once bright, energetic self began to fade, replaced by a fatigue that seemed to swallow her whole. Her body felt heavy, and even the simplest tasks became a struggle. But through it all, Daniel remained her rock. He never left her side, offering her support when she needed it most and doing his best to keep her spirits high. At first, Sarah had tried to keep up appearances. She didn't want to let Daniel see how much the treatment was affecting her. But as the days turned into weeks, the weight of her illness became impossible to ignore. Her hair began to fall out, and the once vibrant glow of her skin became pale and dull. She could barely eat, and when she did, the food tasted like ash in her mouth. She wanted to fight, wanted to pretend that she was fine, but her body betrayed her at every turn. Daniel had noticed the change in her. He could see how tired she was, how the simple act of getting out of bed seemed like an insurmountable challenge. At first, he had tried to help in small ways, bringing her favorite books to read, making her favorite meals, or sitting by her side while she rested. But nothing seemed to make a difference. Sarah wasn't the same, and neither was he. The long days began to take their toll on Daniel, too. He had always been the one to take care of Sarah, but now he found himself in the unfamiliar position of being the one to care for her. It wasn't just the physical demands that drained him, it was the emotional weight. Watching Sarah, the woman he had always looked up to, struggle with her illness broke his heart. He couldn't fix it, and that feeling of helplessness gnawed at him every single day. One evening, as they sat together in Sarah's living room, the quiet between them felt heavier than ever. Sarah was curled up on the couch, her eyes closed, trying to rest. Daniel sat across from her, his gaze fixed on the floor, his mind racing with worry. He had always been the protector, the one who made everything okay. But now, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't fix this. Hey, Sarah, Daniel said softly, his voice breaking the silence. I don't know how to do this. Sarah opened her eyes and turned to look at him. What do you mean? I don't know how to be the one taking care of you, he admitted. I've always been the one you could depend on. I've always been the one to make you laugh, to take care of everything. But now, I don't know what to do. I can't fix this. I don't know how to help you. Sarah's heart ached as she listened to him. She could see the pain in his eyes, the guilt that weighed on him. She knew he was struggling with the same thing she was, feeling helpless, unsure, and afraid. But she couldn't let him carry that burden alone. Daniel, she said softly, reaching out and taking his hand. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to make me feel better. Just be here with me. That's all I need. I don't need you to be strong for me. I need you to be here. I need you to be with me through this." Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes as he squeezed her hand. He had always thought of himself as the strong one, the one who took care of everything. But in that moment, he realized that being strong didn't mean carrying everything on his own. It meant being there, supporting her even when he didn't have the answers. "I'm here, Sarah. I'll always be here," he whispered. "I just wish I could take this pain away from you." "I hate seeing you like this." Sarah gave him a tired smile. "I know, Daniel, but I can't go through this alone. And I don't want you to try to carry this on your own either." Daniel nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. For so long he had been trying to be everything for her, but now he understood that they needed to lean on each other. He couldn't fix what was happening, but he could stand by her, and that was enough. As the days passed, a subtle shift occurred in their relationship. The roles they had once played, Sarah as the strong one, Daniel as the protector, began to blur. Now they were both learning to rely on each other in ways they never had before. Sarah found herself leaning on Daniel more and more, letting go of the need to always be the one in control, and Daniel in turn allowed himself to be vulnerable, accepting that he didn't have to be perfect for Sarah. He just had to be there. One afternoon, a few weeks after Sarah's first chemotherapy session, Daniel found himself sitting beside her at the kitchen table. She was barely eating, picking at the food in front of her with no appetite. Her pale face and the dark circles under her eyes made her look fragile, and Daniel hated seeing her like this. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked gently, trying to make the atmosphere feel lighter. Sarah shook her head, her expression distant. "I don't know what to say. I don't know how to explain how I feel. I hate this, Daniel. I hate feeling so weak." Daniel reached across the table and took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I get it, I do. But you don't have to explain it to me. I see it, I see what you're going through. And I'm here. I always will be." Sarah smiled faintly, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll never have to find out," Daniel said firmly. "You're not alone, Sarah. We're in this together." "We always have been." In that moment, Sarah realized just how much Daniel had given up to be there for her. He had put his own life on hold to care for her, and even though it was hard, he did it without complaint. She knew she was asking a lot of him, but she also knew he would never back down. He loved her too much. The change in their relationship wasn't easy. It came with moments of sadness, confusion, and fear. But through it all, Sarah and Daniel found a new understanding of each other. They weren't just two people going through a difficult time. They were partners in every sense of the word. The journey ahead would not be simple, and there would be many more challenges. But together, they knew they could face anything. With love, support, and a shared determination, they would take things one day at a time, and that was enough for now. As the weeks turned into months, the strain of Sarah's illness began to show on both her and Daniel. The chemotherapy had taken a heavier toll on Sarah's body than anyone had anticipated. The constant hospital visits, the treatments, the endless days of feeling sick and tired. It was all becoming too much for her to handle. The woman who had once been so full of energy, always up for an adventure or a late-night conversation, now felt like a shadow of her former self. She had lost her hair. Her face, once glowing with life, was now pale and hollow. Every day she woke up feeling weaker than the day before. The pain in her side, which had once been just a nagging ache, had become a constant companion. It was a reminder of the battle she was fighting, a battle that felt as though it might be too big for her to win. Daniel watched all of this happen, feeling helpless. He had promised Sarah that he would be there for her, that he would fight alongside her. But the truth was, he didn't know how much more he could take. Every time he looked at her, his heart broke a little more. He wanted to fix things. He wanted to make it all better, to take away her pain, to restore her to the person she once was. But he knew he couldn't. No matter how hard he tried, the reality was clear. Sarah was sick and he was powerless to change it. One night, after yet another exhausting chemotherapy session, Sarah collapsed onto the couch, too tired to even move. She had spent most of the day in bed, unable to eat or drink much, and she was running on fumes. Daniel had been by her side all day, making sure she was comfortable, trying to help her with whatever she needed. But even he was starting to feel the weight of it all. He hadn't slept in days. His energy was drained, and his own emotions were on the brink of breaking. He watched Sarah, her eyes closed in exhaustion, and the frustration inside him grew. He hated seeing her like this. He hated the helplessness that had crept into his heart. It was a feeling he wasn't used to. Daniel had always been the strong one, the one who took charge when things got tough. But now he was the one who felt like he was falling apart. As Sarah shifted on the couch, Daniel stood up and walked to the window, staring out into the night. The streetlights outside cast long shadows, but the silence inside the house was deafening. He ran a hand through his hair, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He had tried to keep things together. He had tried to be the rock that Sarah needed. But now he wasn't sure how much longer he could keep up the facade. His own emotions, fear, anger, sadness, had been building for weeks, and now they felt like they were going to spill over. He turned away from the window and walked back to Sarah, his footsteps heavy. He kneeled beside the couch, his heart pounding in his chest. "Sarah," he said softly, but there was an edge to his voice, one that surprised both of them. "I can't keep doing this. I can't watch you suffer like this anymore." Sarah opened her eyes and looked up at him, her face pale, her expression one of confusion. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice weak but full of concern. "I don't know how much longer I can take it," Daniel said, his voice cracking slightly. "Every day I watch you get weaker. I watch you struggle and it tears me apart. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to help you, and it's killing me inside." Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what he was saying. She had always thought of herself as the strong one, the one who could protect others, and now she was the one causing pain to the person she loved the most. She had never wanted him to feel like this, to carry this burden. "Daniel," she said, her voice trembling, "I never wanted you to carry this weight. You don't have to do this alone. I don't want you to feel like this," but Daniel shook his head, his frustration mounting. "I know you didn't want this, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm here, watching you go through hell, and I can't do anything about it. I can't just sit here and pretend everything's fine when it's not. I can't keep pretending that I'm okay when I'm not." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she listened to him. She had never seen Daniel like this before. He was always the one who remained calm, the one who kept everything together. And now he was breaking down in front of her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, feeling a heavy weight in her chest. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to put this on you." But Daniel reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "It's not your fault," he said quietly, his voice filled with emotion. "I'm just scared, Sarah. I'm so scared. I don't know how to handle all of this. I don't know how to handle watching you hurt." For a long moment they sat in silence, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. Sarah could see the fear in Daniel's eyes, the fear she had tried so hard to hide from him. He was scared of losing her, and she was scared of what her illness might do to him. "I don't want you to carry this on your own," Sarah said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're in this together. We always have been, and we always will be. You don't have to be strong for both of us, Daniel. I need you to let me be strong for you too." Daniel's eyes softened as he looked at her. He had been trying so hard to keep everything together, to be the one who held everything up. But now he understood. Strength didn't mean carrying everything alone. Strength meant being there for each other, even in the hardest moments. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been trying to do everything on my own, and I shouldn't have. I can't do this without you." Sarah smiled faintly, her fingers tightening around his. "We'll get through this together." And for the first time in weeks, Daniel felt a sense of peace settle over him. He didn't have all the answers. He didn't know how this would end. But he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to face it alone. Neither of them were. The days that followed were filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Sarah's condition had worsened, and her body had become frail, but her spirit, her resilience, remained strong. Despite the harsh treatments, the endless fatigue, and the pain that gnawed at her every day, Sarah kept fighting, But as each day passed, she knew her time was running out. The doctors had done all they could, but there was only so much medicine could do when the body had already given its all. Daniel never left her side. His devotion to her was unwavering, but even he could see how much she was struggling. The once bright sparkle in Sarah's eyes had dulled, and her laughter, the sound that had always made him feel like everything was right in the world, was rare now, and when it came, it was soft and tired. One evening, as the sun set behind, The hills casting a golden glow over the world outside, Daniel sat beside Sarah's bed. She was curled up under the blankets, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow but steady. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the machines that monitored her heart and her breath. The air in the room felt heavy, filled with the weight of unspoken words, with memories of better days. "Sarah," Daniel whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. He reached out and gently took her hand in his, as though the simple touch could bridge the gap between the life they once knew and the reality they were facing now. "I don't know what I'm going to do without you. You've been my everything. My best friend, my heart, my soul." Sarah's eyes fluttered open at the sound of his voice, and she gave him a tired smile. It was the kind of smile that was full of love but also full of sadness. She had always been the one to protect him, to keep him strong, but now she felt like she was the one who needed protecting. "I don't want to leave you, Daniel," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "But I don't know how much longer I can hold on. The pain, it's so much." Daniel's heart shattered at her words, but he held her hand tighter, willing himself to stay strong, even when everything in him wanted to break. "You don't have to hold on anymore, Sarah. You've fought so hard. I don't want you to suffer. I just want you to be at peace." The tears welled up in his eyes, but he blinked them away, trying to remain composed. He had always promised to protect her, but in this moment he realized there was nothing he could do to stop what was happening. The only thing he could give her now was his love, his support, and the promise that she would never be forgotten. Sarah squeezed his hand weakly, her eyes searching his face. "Promise me, Daniel. Promise me that you won't give up. Promise me that you'll keep living, even after I'm gone." Daniel's voice cracked as he spoke, the weight of her words pressing heavily on his chest. "I promise, Sarah. I'll keep living for you. I'll carry you with me in everything I do. You'll never be gone from me. I won't forget you. I can't forget you." Sarah smiled softly, the faintest glimmer of relief crossing her face. "I love you, Daniel. You've been the best part of my life." "I love you too," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Always have. Always will." The room grew quiet again, the only sound the gentle rhythm of Sarah's breathing. Daniel stayed by her side, holding her hand, not wanting to let go. He wasn't ready to say goodbye. He didn't know if he would ever be ready, but he knew one thing for sure. No matter what happened, he would honor her memory, her love, for the rest of his life. As the night wore on, Sarah's condition began to worsen. She grew weaker, her breaths coming slower and more shallow. Daniel didn't leave her side, even as he saw the signs that her body was giving up. But through it all, Sarah's strength shone through. She had fought as long as she could, and now, as her life began to slip away, she knew it was okay to let go. Daniel's heart ached, but he knew she needed peace. He didn't want her to suffer any longer. As she took her final breaths, he whispered one last promise. "I'll carry you with me. Always." And then, with a soft sigh, Sarah's eyes closed for the final time. The next few days were a blur of grief and disbelief. Daniel found himself moving through life like he was in a fog, unable to fully grasp the reality of what had just happened. Sarah, the woman he had loved for so long, was gone. It felt like a dream, something that couldn't possibly be real. But the emptiness in his chest was all too real. The funeral was small, just a few close friends and family members, but for Daniel, it felt like the entire world had come to a standstill. He stood at the grave, his hands clasped in front of him, his head bowed. Sarah had been everything to him, his best friend, his confidant, his love, and now, she was gone. He could hardly believe it. But even in the midst of his overwhelming grief, Daniel felt something deep within him, a quiet, steady sense of purpose. Sarah had made him promise to keep living, to move forward. And for the first time since her passing, he understood what that meant. It wasn't about forgetting her. It was about honoring her, carrying her memory with him in everything he did. As he stood by the grave, Daniel made a silent vow. He would live the life Sarah had wanted for him. He would live with courage, with love, and with the kind of strength she had always shown him. He would honor her memory by living fully, by not letting her loss define him, but by letting it remind him of the beauty of the love they had shared. The days that followed were difficult. There were moments when the grief felt unbearable, moments when the pain of losing her threatened to crush him. But slowly, Daniel began to find his way back to life. He took it one day at a time, holding onto the memories of Sarah, the laughter, the late-night talks, the quiet moments they had shared. He carried her with him, not just in his heart, but in everything he did. He could still hear her voice in his mind, still feel her hand in his, still sense her presence beside him. Sarah was gone, but she would never truly leave him. And so, Daniel lived, just as he had promised. He lived for both of them, for Sarah and for the love they had shared. In a small, peaceful town nestled between rolling hills, Sarah and Daniel had been inseparable since childhood. Their friendship was something special, one that had withstood the test of time. They had grown up together, playing in the fields, laughing in the streets, and sharing secrets under the stars. Nothing could come between them. But life, as it often does, had a way of throwing challenges their way. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening when the first sign of trouble appeared. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange, casting a soft glow over the town. Sarah sat on her porch, her legs tucked beneath her, gazing out at the horizon. The cool breeze swept her dark hair back, but even as the world seemed to slow down, there was something off about her. Daniel, ever the observant one, noticed the change immediately. He had always known Sarah's every mood, every little detail of her behavior. Tonight, though, there was a distant look in her eyes. Something was bothering her, but she didn't say a word. Daniel, with his usual easy smile, walked up to the porch. But the moment he stepped onto the wooden steps, he could tell something wasn't right. "Hey, you okay?" Daniel asked, concern lacing his voice. He had been Sarah's best friend for so long that he could tell when something was wrong, even if she didn't say anything. Sarah turned to him, trying to muster a smile, but it faltered. She could feel the ache deep inside her, that dull, persistent pain that had started just a few days ago. It wasn't severe, but it wasn't something she could ignore either. It had been creeping up, showing up in small bursts, but she hadn't told anyone, especially not Daniel. She didn't want him to worry. "It's nothing," she said, waving her hand dismissively, but her voice was quiet, lacking its usual energy. Daniel didn't buy it. He took a seat beside her, his expression softening. He could see the way her shoulders were tense, the way she was gripping her side as if trying to hold the pain in place. His heart sank a little. Sarah was strong, always so strong. She never let anything bring her down. So what was going on? "Sarah, you can't hide everything from me," he said gently. He had seen her go through tough times before, but this felt different. This time the usual smile that brightened her face seemed absent. For a moment Sarah said nothing, and the two of them just sat in silence, watching the sunset together. The world around them felt peaceful, but inside Sarah's mind was racing. She didn't want to worry Daniel, but she didn't want to lie to him either. "Take it easy. It hurts," she said softly, finally breaking the silence. Her words were so quiet, almost as if she was talking to herself, but Daniel heard them clearly. His heart skipped a beat, and without thinking, he reached out, placing his hand on her arm. "What hurts, Sarah? Tell me. I'm here for you, always." Sarah hesitated, then looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of vulnerability and uncertainty. She could see the worry growing in Daniel's eyes. He was always the one who tried to make everything better, to fix things, and here she was, unable to fix herself. "I don't know," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's this ache right here," she said, pressing her hand to her side. "It's been there for a few days, but I thought it would go away." But it hasn't. Daniel's mind raced. He had seen Sarah hurt before, had seen her power through injuries or tough situations, but this wasn't the same. Something about the way she spoke made him uneasy. He leaned in closer, his brow furrowed in concern. "Has it gotten worse? When did it start?" Sarah nodded, her face pale in the fading light. "A couple of days ago. At first it was just a little annoying, but it's getting worse. I can't even sit comfortably anymore, Daniel. It's like it's deep inside me, but I don't want to make a big deal out of it." Daniel took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He hated seeing Sarah in pain, especially when she tried to hide it. He knew she was strong, but this time something about the way she said those words made him feel like there was more to it. He couldn't just stand by and do nothing. "Sarah, you need to see a doctor. This isn't something you should just ignore," he said firmly. He wasn't about to let her suffer in silence. She shook her head, a weak smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I'll be fine. It's probably nothing serious." Daniel could tell she was trying to reassure him, but he wasn't buying it. He stood up, looking down at her with determination. "No, we're going to get you checked out. You don't have to do this alone. I'm coming with you." Sarah looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and hesitation. She didn't want to drag him into her problems, but Daniel wasn't the type to back down. He had always been there for her, and in this moment she knew he would never let her face anything alone. "Okay," she said softly, nodding. "I'll go, but just promise me you won't overreact, all right?" Daniel gave her a small smile, the kind of smile that made her feel safe. "I won't overreact," he said, though in his mind he knew this wasn't something that could just be ignored. "But I'm going with you, every step of the way." As the evening grew darker, Daniel helped Sarah to her feet, supporting her gently as they walked down the porch steps. She felt a bit embarrassed, but at the same time she was grateful. She had spent so many years taking care of others, but now she was the one who needed someone else to take care of her. And as they made their way through the quiet streets, Sarah couldn't help but feel a small sense of comfort knowing that Daniel was by her side. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that no matter what happened, they would face it together. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to relax, trusting that everything would be all right. After all, she had Daniel, and he had never let her down. But as they walked toward the doctor's office, a knot formed in Sarah's stomach. She couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to change in ways she couldn't control. But for now, with Daniel by her side, she could face whatever came next.